If you had to spend one night locked in a room with one of these objects I'm about to mention, which would you choose? You have to pick one. What if I told you that the most ordinary objects around you could be carrying something much darker than dust and memories? A chair, a doll, a painting. They look innocent to the eye, but some are cursed in ways that ruin lives, destroy families, and sometimes even kill. Tonight, we dive into the terrifying world of haunted objects. These aren't legends. These are real items, documented, photographed, and feared by the people who've owned them. And by the end of this video, you might never look at the things inside your own home the same way again. Stay with me until the end, because the last object we'll uncover is so disturbing that museums lock it away. And even then, strange things happen to anyone who dares to look at it too long. For centuries, people have whispered about cursed objects. Some believe they are vessels for restless spirits. Others think they carry the rage or despair of those who once owned them. Skeptics laugh them off as superstition. But tell that to families who've lived with them and barely made out alive. Our first story takes us to England, to a simple wooden chair known as the Busby Stoop Chair. At first glance, it's nothing special. Just a rustic chair, worn from time, sitting inside a quiet pub. But locals call it the death chair. The legend begins in the 1700s. A man named Thomas Busby was a drunkard, a thief, and a murderer. One night, after a violent argument with his father-in-law, Busby strangled him to death. When he was captured and sentenced to hang, his final wish was simple: to have one last drink at his favorite pub while sitting in his chair. Before being dragged away to the gallows, Busby shouted a curse. He declared that anyone who sat in his chair would die horribly. At first, people laughed it off, until the death started. Soldiers during World War II who sat in the chair never returned from battle. A roofer who sat in it fell to his death the very same day. Another man died in a car crash within hours of touching it. By the 1970s, the pub owner had enough. He begged the local museum to take it. Today, the chair hangs high on a wall, so no one can ever sit on it again. Staff say they still hear faint creaks, as if someone or something is shifting in the seat. And that's just one cursed object. We've only just begun. Next, we'll explore a painting so disturbing that anyone who owned it reported screaming children in the night, fires breaking out, and a sense that the eyes in the portrait were alive. If you're still here, you're braver than most. Make sure to like this video so more people can discover these terrifying true stories, and subscribe, because the next cursed item might just be the most dangerous one of them all. The second cursed object on our list looks harmless, just a painting. But this painting has been called one of the most haunted artworks in existence. It is known simply as The Hands Resist Him. The story begins in 1972, when an artist named Bill Stoneham painted a boy standing in front of a glass door. Beside him was a strange, life-size doll with hollow eyes, holding a piece of machinery. Behind the glass door were dozens of ghostly hands, pressed against the glass as though trying to break through. At first, the painting was just considered surreal and strange. But then the death started. The first art critic to review it died within a year. The gallery owner who first displayed it also died shortly after. Even the man who originally purchased it passed away mysteriously. People began to whisper that the painting was cursed. Years later, the painting resurfaced on eBay, and that's when the legend grew darker. The family who listed it described terrifying experiences. They claimed the boy and the doll and the painting moved at night. Sometimes the boy would disappear from the canvas altogether. Their daughter woke up screaming, saying the characters had come out of the painting and entered her room. The listing included photos. In one, the boy in the painting was gone. In another, the doll appeared to hold a gun instead of her strange toy. The post went viral, and thousands of people viewed it. Some who saw the images online said they immediately felt sick, anxious, or even faint. Today, The Hands Resist Him is locked away in storage in a private collection. The owner refuses to display it publicly, fearing what might happen if more people look upon it. And still, those who have seen it up close insist the hands in the background press harder and harder against the glass each year, as though trying to escape. If the cursed chair was a warning of death, and the painting was a doorway to something sinister, what comes next is even worse. It's not just an object that terrifies people. It's a doll that has been blamed for accidents, possessions, and even death. Before we reveal it, make sure you're subscribed. The next story will take us inside the twisted legend of a doll so infamous. Hollywood movies have tried to capture its terror, but the real story is far darker than anything you've seen on screen. The third object is perhaps the most famous cursed doll in history. You've heard of it through horror movies and ghost stories, but the truth is far stranger than fiction. Its name is Robert. Robert the doll first appeared in the early 1900s in Key West, Florida. He belonged to a little boy named Robert Eugene Otto, who received him as a gift. No one knows for certain where the doll came from. Some say it was handmade by a servant who practiced dark voodoo. Others believe it was simply a toy that became a vessel for something evil. From the moment Robert arrived, strange things began to happen. The boy insisted on being called Gene from then on, because, as he told his parents, the doll was the real Robert now. At night, Gene's parents would hear him whispering to the doll. Sometimes, they heard a second voice whisper back. Neighbors swore they saw the doll moving from window to window when the family wasn't home. Visitors reported Robert's expression changing when they spoke ill of him. Household objects were found broken, and Gene always said the same thing: Robert did it. As Gene grew older, he refused to part with the doll. Even as a grown man, he kept Robert in his home. His wife hated it, saying the doll seemed to watch her, and that she would often hear footsteps in the attic where Robert was kept. After Gene's death, the house changed owners. The new family's daughter discovered the doll in the attic. Not long after, she claimed Robert tried to attack her. Today, Robert the doll sits behind glass in a museum in Key West. But the curse hasn't stopped. Visitors who mock him, laugh at him, or take his photo without permission often claim to suffer car accidents, illnesses, or sudden financial ruin soon after. The museum is filled with letters from people begging Robert's forgiveness, apologizing for disrespecting him. Some say Robert's eyes follow you as you move. Others insist his expression shifts ever so slightly when you're not looking. Whatever the truth is, one rule remains clear. If you ever visit him in person, don't forget to ask for his permission. But Robert isn't the only doll blamed for terror. There's another, smaller and stranger, that hides in Japan, and those who've seen it swear it's alive in a way no doll should be. Make sure you keep watching, because the next story will take us across the ocean to a doll that grows human hair and refuses to stop. Our next cursed object takes us far from Florida, across the ocean to Japan. It looks like an ordinary doll, but its legend is one of the most unsettling of all. Her name is Okiku. The story begins in 1918, when a young boy purchased a doll for his little sister in Sapporo. She loved it so much that she carried it everywhere, dressing it, combing its hair, even sleeping beside it. She named the doll Okiku. Tragedy struck when the girl suddenly fell ill and died at just 3 years old. Heartbroken, her family placed the doll on a shrine in remembrance. But soon after, they noticed something strange. The doll's jet black hair, which had been cut into a neat bob, seemed to grow longer each month. At first, the family thought they were imagining it, but eventually, they could not deny it. The doll's hair was alive. Priests and scholars examined Okiku and confirmed what they saw. The doll's hair continued to grow, even when trimmed. Some claimed the spirit of the little girl had taken residence inside her beloved toy. Over time, other disturbing signs appeared. People swore the doll's mouth began to open slightly, revealing tiny human-like teeth. Visitors reported dreams of the doll whispering to them, "Ask and play." The family, unable to cope with what they believed was their daughter's spirit, eventually entrusted the doll to Menenji Temple, where she remains to this day. Even now, the temple's priests claim Okiku's hair grows naturally and must be cut every year. Scientists who examined strands of the doll's hair confirmed that it was human. No one could explain how or why. Locals say that if you stare into her glass eyes long enough, you'll feel a pull, like the spirit within is aware of you, waiting for you to blink first. But dolls and paintings are only the beginning. The next cursed object doesn't sit quietly in a museum or shrine. It has been carried from owner to owner, leaving a trail of misery, illness, and sudden death in its wake. Many call it the world's most dangerous diamond. and some believe it is stained with the blood of everyone who has ever possessed it. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear is not just a haunting story. It's a curse that has touched royals, millionaires, and even the most powerful families on Earth. Among all the cursed objects in history, few are as infamous as the Hope Diamond. It is one of the most beautiful gems ever discovered, and one of the deadliest. The diamond's origins trace back centuries to India, where legend says it was stolen from the eye of a sacred Hindu statue. From that moment on, the stone was believed to carry a curse of misfortune and death to anyone who dared to own it. The stories of its victims are chilling. The first man said to have stolen the diamond was torn apart by wild dogs. A French merchant who later sold it was brutally killed by a mob. When King Louis XIV acquired the stone, it was passed down to his descendants, and soon, nearly all of them met tragic ends during the French Revolution, including Marie Antoinette, who was executed by guillotine. Later owners fared no better. A Russian prince who wore was murdered by revolutionaries. A wealthy woman who owned a gem lost her entire family in a series of bizarre accidents. Even jewelers and handlers who touched it were said to have fallen ill or died unexpectedly. By the 20th century, the Hope Diamond had gained a reputation as an object too dangerous to possess. Yet, ironically, this made it more desirable. Millionaires, aristocrats, and collectors fought to acquire it, believing they could escape the curse. None did. Eventually, the diamond found its way to the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C., where it remains today, locked safely behind glass. Thousands of visitors come to admire its brilliance each year. But even now, museum staff whisper about strange occurrences, malfunctions, sudden illnesses, and unexplained accidents linked to those who work too closely with it. Some say the curse has gone quiet. Others believe it's only waiting, biding its time until someone once again dares to claim it as their own. But not all cursed objects glitter with beauty. Some are ordinary, almost dull, until you learn their history. The next item is nothing more than a simple box. Yet countless people who opened it reported terrifying visions, voices, and violent accidents that followed. They call it the Dybbuk Box, and its story might be the most frightening of them all. The next cursed object looks completely harmless at first glance. It isn't a diamond or a priceless work of art. It's just a small wooden wine cabinet, plain and unremarkable, but it has become infamous around the world as the Dybbuk Box. The story begins in the early 2000s, when a man named Kevin Mannis bought the box at an estate sale in Portland, Oregon. The seller explained that it had belonged to her grandmother, a Holocaust survivor. The grandmother had always warned the family never to open it, claiming it contained a Dybbuk, a restless, malicious spirit from Jewish folklore. Mannis thought little of it and took the box home. But once he did, strange things began to happen. He reported hearing horrific nightmares, seeing shadowy figures in his home, and experiencing overpowering scents of jasmine and cat urine. Electronic devices malfunctioned around the box, lights flickered, and people who touched it suffered sudden nosebleeds, rashes, or violent illnesses. Disturbed by his experiences, Mannis tried to give the box away, but every new owner came back with similar or worse stories. One man's hair began falling out in clumps. Another developed sudden, unexplainable health problems. A college student who bought it online claimed his apartment filled with strange insects and that he was plagued by terrifying hallucinations until he finally sold it again. Eventually, the Dybbuk Box gained so much notoriety that it inspired Hollywood movies and became the subject of paranormal investigations. Even celebrities were drawn to it. In 2018, the box was brought to Las Vegas, where musician Post Malone was present when it was opened. Shortly afterward, Malone survived a string of bizarre accidents, including a plane malfunction, a car crash, and even a near-home invasion, all within weeks of the encounter. Today, the Dybbuk Box is kept under strict lock and key in a haunted museum, sealed inside a protective case. But even behind glass, visitors claim they feel a heaviness in the air when standing near it. Some say they hear faint scratching from inside. Others swear they feel watched. If this is what one small box can do, imagine what an entire mirror might unleash. Our next story is about a cursed mirror that has been blamed for death after death for over a century. Owners have sworn that the mirror doesn't just reflect reality, It holds something waiting to reach back. Mirrors are supposed to show us our reflection, nothing more. But for centuries, people have feared that mirrors are gateways, thin barriers between our world and something on the other side. And one mirror, in particular, has earned a reputation as one of the most cursed objects ever created: the Myrtles Plantation mirror. The Myrtles Plantation, located in Louisiana, is already famous for being one of the most haunted houses in America. Built in the late 1700s, it has been the site of murders, mysterious illnesses, and countless ghost sightings. But nothing terrifies visitors more than the mirror that hangs in its grand hallway. According to legend, the mirror is tied to the spirit of a woman named Chloe, a slave who lived on the plantation. Stories say she was caught eavesdropping on her master and was punished by having her ear cut off. Seeking revenge, she baked a poison cake that killed 2 of the family's daughters. Chloe was hanged, but many believed her spirit, and the spirits of the dead children, remained trapped in the house. Visitors to the plantation claim the mirror doesn't just reflect a room. People have reported seeing shadowy figures moving inside the glass. Faces of children press against the surface, and even handprints that appear and never fade. The strangest detail? The mirror is regularly cleaned, yet smudges shaped like fingerprints and palm prints return within days, as if something inside is trying to push its way out. Tourists have also reported feeling dizzy and nauseous when standing too close, as though the mirror itself drains their energy. Some say if you stare into it too long, your reflection begins to move independently, blinking or tilting its head when you do not. The plantation has embraced its haunted reputation, but the mirror remains locked in place, too dangerous to remove. Guides warn visitors not to touch it, and many refuse to even stand near it. They say to look too long is to risk being seen and followed. But if a mirror can trap spirits, imagine an object designed for worship, soaked in centuries of ritual and grief. Our final cursed item is so feared that even hardened paranormal investigators hesitate to be near it. A chair might bring death, a doll might bring nightmares, but this one is believed to carry something far older and far darker. Stay with me, because the last cursed object may be the most terrifying of them all. Our final cursed object takes us back to the beginning, to ancient times, when people believed that spirits could be bound to objects through rituals and sacrifice. Among the most feared of these relics is the Chair of Death, also known as the Chair of Thomas Busby's curse, or, depending on the telling, the Chair of Infamy. But there is another object even more infamous: the Black Sarcophagus of Alexandria. In 2018, workers in Egypt unearthed a massive black granite coffin sealed underground for over 2,000 years. Unlike other sarcophagi, this one was completely untouched, its lid fused tightly shut. Inside, archaeologists found 3 skeletons floating in a foul red liquid. Almost immediately, the internet erupted with warnings: do not open it. Do not unleash what sleeps inside. Though scientists insisted the liquid was just sewage that had seeped inside, locals whispered that the bodies belonged to cursed soldiers, or worse, a forgotten king. Within days of the discovery, stories of accidents, illnesses, and strange occurrences began to spread. People who handled the sarcophagus fell ill. Equipment malfunctioned. Some workers reported terrifying dreams, claiming they heard voices whispering in a language they didn't understand. But this isn't the only sarcophagus or ritual object believed to carry curses. Ancient relics all over the world, from Egyptian amulets to African ritual statues, have been linked to death and disaster. Even museums refuse to display some of them, fearing what could happen to visitors. And that's the final warning these objects leave us with: a chair, a doll, a painting, a box, a diamond, a mirror, a sarcophagus. They are all reminders that the objects we create do not always belong to us. Sometimes they carry echoes of pain, vengeance, or something far more sinister. So the next time you're in an antique shop, or walking through a museum, or even just sitting in an old chair in your grandmother's house, ask yourself, what history does this object carry? And more importantly, what if that history isn't finished with you yet? If you made it to the end of this terrifying journey, you are braver than most. But don't stop here. Hit the like button, subscribe, and share this video with someone who dares to watch it. Because the scariest part of all is knowing these objects are still out there, And one of them could be closer to you than you think.